some additional thoughts on your secret sauce. Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from mindfulmarketplace.com, and welcome back to our brand new series called Serve and Scale, where we answer the question, what can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch? What tools, tech, software, services, products, platforms, what is out there right now that you can leverage to 10x your audience, 10x your impact, 10x your output, and ultimately 10x your income as well. So I want to share some sort of expositional, if that's a word, or extemporaneous, I guess is really the word I'm searching for here, thoughts on secret sauce, right? So I've gotten some really good feedback on a few of these audios that I've put out in the last week and a half or so about this notion of product for product to solve X problem for Y audience with Z secret sauce. And there's a little, kind of infographic heuristic or image below that you can reference for this. Now, a lot of folks, or at least some, are asking about, well, I have no secret sauce, right? I mean, there's nothing that I do uniquely well, or maybe I'm just getting started, or maybe I'm just kind of learning the landscape. And I keep on coming back to this notion that your secret sauce does not need to be your sauce. So what does that mean? Essentially, it comes back to that first point again. What can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch, right? Whose sauce out there in the world can you capitalize on by dint of paying for it, or borrowing it, or signing up for it? Like, what can you create that is purely an offshoot of someone else's creativity? And I gave these examples, and I want you really to consider this in your own brand and your own business, especially for those of you who are selling digital media services, right? Or online agency style services. Or let's say even you're building an authority site and you are trying to think of ways to monetize your members, right? How do you build a profitable community if you're building a directory and, or a marketplace or a portal style site or a buddy, press style community, or even a newsletter, right? So how do you actually offer back-end services that turn this whole thing in your favor? So here are a few examples these are real life examples that I've demonstrated before, but I'm going to give you again now, right? So number one, something like Typeform. Now, for those of you who don't know, Typeform is this kind of really sexy, smooth, form software that allows you to do these interactive customer journeys. You can create really killer e-commerce checkout experiences. You can ask questions, right, to your audience in this really immersive way, where it tokens the person going through this and uses various logic, protocols that allow you just to look really smart, right? And you can pay for this, and it gives you the ability to appear like you have superpowers. Now, those of us in the online marketing universe or the brand building universe are quite familiar with these sorts of software services that are out there in the world, but most people are not, right? So when I show this, when I do a Typeform and show it to, let's say, a relative at Thanksgiving, or, who's a very successful attorney or a doctor or even an engineer of some kind, they are not familiar with this sort of software. So if they are in the hiring game, looking for someone to, if they have an idea that they're trying to bring to market, and you're showing these cool things that you've done, right? Now, obviously, I'm not selling services at Thanksgiving, but I'm just letting you know that these 95% of the people in the world, who are going to be looking for your sorts of services aren't aware that these kinds of things are out there, right? So last night, and again today, I'm recording this on the 14th, I think, of May, I was looking at because we're working with authors in our Mindful Marketplace community, I was looking again at some of the best practices that are, recommended for author landing pages, author book launches, author-oriented blogs, right? So there are all these, kind of cottage industry, kind of blogs and content farms around making recommendations to new authors. And when I look at what they're recommending for landing pages and for book launches and the CMS they recommend their authors utilize to when they have a book ready to come out, they're really bad. They're bad ideas. They're antiquated ideas, right? I'm looking at, folks who are really successful in the author consulting space, right? And they're just recommending shitty things. They have no clue, like, what is cutting edge, right? So for those of you who are listening to this now, you'll know that I've made this recommendation for months now, right? Use Leaflets. Right, Leaflets has these great author-centric landing pages for book launches that are carefully curated, that are just best practice conventions for authors, right? And you can, if you're writing a book, it's $25 to incorporate that into your launch strategy. That's your landing page. And you can have a killer landing page for your book launch. Well, guess what? Most authors don't know that's available. But if you're an agency and you're working with authors or folks who have books coming out, well, you can offer that you can borrow that landing page technology and create it for your authors and sell it for a great price. Let's say $250. Well, you've just 10x'd your investment. It might take you a half hour to put that book launch page together using Leaflets technology. You're borrowing, what can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch? And then you're actually offering a real solution to a genuine problem for a real audience with genuine secret sauce. And again, that secret sauce was not your sauce. All right. And there are so many various ways of mixing and matching these sorts of tools and tech and software and services and products and platforms in the service of building your own brand and giving you the appearance of, genuine expertise and authority in your niche, market, vertical, locality, etc., etc., etc. All right. So here's another idea that, again, I know people listening to this right now who are in my community who have been in the process of building these sorts of communities or sites for years and have not gotten anything off the ground. But the one thing they have, the one secret sauce that they have, right, is a domain name. It's a really good niche-oriented domain name. And I'm thinking of a couple, clients, both past and present right now, who have no mojo whatsoever in the kind of getting shit done space, right? So they've had these ideas that they've been toying with for years, trying to get up and running and, and never actually get there. But the one thing that they have, what they can borrow to build, is the fact that they have a really, really sweet and super specific domain name that's super appealing in a specific niche, market, or industry, right? So I don't want to, I'm not going to out anybody on this call, right? But I'll just give you an example from my own experience. So, years ago, when the first one of these sorts of sites that I put together was a directory of psychic mediums, and the domain, and I'm not necessarily a believer in psychic mediums, but this goes back a decade. But what I had, the only real thing I had no experience, I had no real expertise other than this idea. But I had a great domain name, and that domain name gave me the appearance of authority in a niche, right? So the domain name was appealing to my audience, and they wanted to be listed on a site that appeared to be an objective accounting of the best psychic mediums or psychics in the world, right? So by dint of just leveraging a really good domain name, you can move. You're looking for that Archimedes lever, right? Give me something that I can use to move mountains, to shift the world in my favor, and I'll do it. Give me an instrument, give me an advantage, give me something that actually allows me an unfair, advantage in, the area that I'm competing. And, there are just so many cool and creative ways to do this sort of work using that sort of approach, right? What can I borrow to build? What can I leverage to launch? How can I then utilize, these great tools and tech and software and services in the service of building my own business? I've created nothing really of value in the world, right? Other than, ideas and enthusiasm and imparting, taking other people's cool stuff and thinking of ways to then to transfer other people, the knowledge that I have, right? The fact that I'll spend 4 hours a week or sometimes a day or sometimes in a given night, looking for cool tools that I can then brainstorm how I can use those tools in the service of helping my clients or introducing those to my audience. And I'll give you another example along the same lines, right? So a couple weeks ago, again, somewhere in April, I think we're all kind of losing track of time these days, but I have all this experience now teaching courses and building course communities, and that's what we're focused on right now in our community. And I came across this very cool text-based software LMS, right? So now, rather than delivering your courses via video and via email and all that sort of stuff, which we do now, there's this company out there that is founded by a very smart, socially conscious, young team of entrepreneurs who are doing text-based LMS, right? So people can sign up now for my courses or our community courses and get them delivered via text rather than these, kind of like Podia or Teachable or Gumroad style experiences. And I got on the phone with this young guy who I think is a year or two out of college, and we had this great conversation about his tools, his tech, his software, his service. It's called Arist, A-R-I-S-T. And, and it's very expensive. And I did a little recording on this, so you might have heard this already, but it's, about $1,000 a month starting for our community, right? So for my Mindful Marketplace community, we need to spend a minimum of about $1,000 a month to actually utilize this in our, in our course offerings. And that's very expensive, right? And I'm not so sure that I want to spend that sort of money for something that, the analogs in our existing ecosystem are less than 100, right? Or if they're more expensive, they're not that much more expensive, right? This could be thousands of dollars a month, by the time we were said, we really implemented this, and that's pretty risky. But what immediately started to churn in my mind was this idea of, okay, well, if I pay more for this, what advantage does that give me? If we go all in and build the first real text-based LMS where courses are being delivered via a phone, right? Via text-based messages rather than email, rather than video, and look, what competitive advantage would that give us? Well, it would give us some, right? I can see immediately how that would be advantageous. But the other advantage would be no one else is going to be able to afford that, right? So the people in my demographic who we are approaching now, with asking them to teach for our community, these folks have options. They can go to Teachable and sign up for $49 a month, or they can go to Podia and sign up for $79 a month. So in a certain sense, they don't need our sauce, right? I can say, well, we can give you all these advantages. I have this experience. I can help you create courses. We can run Facebook ads to promote you. You have an audience built in with us. All that's great, and it's very true, but at the same time, these folks can also say, well, shit, I can also just go and sign up for myself and launch my whole thing without needing them. Thanks for the great idea. But using a tool like this, text-based, LMS, well, they can't afford that, right? So most of the people in my audience are not going to be able to say, well, thanks for the great idea. Let me go pay, $500 a month for this text-based platform with no audience and no idea what I'm doing and no blah, blah, blah. So you can actually use your ability to invest in something as the launch point. What can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch? What gives you superpowers, right? So the platform gives you superpowers, but also your ability to spend some money on infrastructure gives you superpowers, because no one else in your community is going to do it without you, right? And there are just so many ways that something like that can be utilized with a strategic sense ability in the service of, what can you borrow to build? What can you leverage to launch? And ultimately, what gives you, your secret sauce that doesn't need to be your sauce. So I could go on forever. I hope you get the point. I hope this makes sense. And I hope you don't feel, that regardless of what you don't have going on right now, that limits you. All you need to do is invest a little bit of energy, enthusiasm, and attention, actually, in finding cool tools. Go to Product Hunt. Go to a site like that where where you see just these amazing tools and tech and software and services that, are often in these very, embryonic stages, and you can actually get in on the ground floor. Like, I got this email invite from something I thought it was like almost spammy. Like, I thought it was like just spam, but I got this email invite to this, to beta test this new software. That's this productivity software. Last week, let's say. And I almost was like going to delete it. And then I was like, what, screw it. I'm going to look. And it must have been something that I signed up for on Product Hunt, or I put my name into something like months ago, and now they're launching. And a guy sent me a beta invite, and it's super cool and really just amazing piece of creative software that's completely disruptive and innovative, and I can use that. I've already come up with ways to use that in the service of helping my own clients, helping my own community, because there's some cool features that software offers that I haven't come across yet, that I can actually incorporate into some of the things I'm working with or helping other people build. So there's so many cool ways in which you can just use your attention in the service of helping other people succeed, or helping other people brainstorm or come up with cool ideas. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say here. Probably not. I think that's sufficient for today. So again, do these exercises for yourself, run these experiments for yourself, and then come up with irresistible offers built around this core sensibility of what can you borrow to build, what can you leverage to launch, and what ultimately allows you to expand your brand without having to come up or create anything unique yourself. Okie doke, this is Ian once again. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to everyone soon.